Optic Watch Reviews, 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 Optic Watch Reviews.
Bonjour mes amis, hi guys, collection review long overdue for Andrew, who is a 43-year-old lawyer in Edinburgh, Scotland with 2 kids. Sorry Andrew, I had everything lined up and then I was busy moving apartments for the past 2 weeks, but everything is coming together nicely, so more time for videos. Alright, so Andrew has interesting watches, let's go through them. First we have a vintage piece, an Omega reference 720 from around 1951, his only vintage piece. He bought it largely because of the dial patina. It looks like it has been evenly stained with tea, as Andrew says. It's a very simple hand-wound piece, which he often wears to court, where very formal attire is required and a wristwatch is essential, which is an interesting piece of information, I think. I imagine, yeah, maybe, are you wearing those white wigs over there in Scotland? It is only 34 millimeters, but Andrew says he's fortunate to have a wrist that can accommodate a wide range of watch sizes. Well, I guess it's the same for everybody, but it's all in the mindset, right? You know, elegant men of the past, you know, in the 50s, 60s would wear 32, 34 millimeter watches indeed, and it's really, and these days, you know, I have a 36, I have a Speedy, I don't really go bigger than 42, but it's really all in your perception, and who cares what everybody else thinks. Andrew says it's as small as he's gonna go, although the longer lugs, which is true, is very important for a watch, especially the vintage pieces, make the watch wear larger. It's true for some Calatravas, from some dress pieces from Vacheron. Very nice lugs can go a long way in filling the wrist. It's interesting that you're really wearing your Omega vintage. Many people buy it because it's a good looking thing to own, but it's just to tick a box. But in this case, you put it to great use, so I think that's wonderful. Number 2, Andrew has a Speedy Pro, if I'm not mistaken, the same as I have, the Hesalite 1861 caliber. He doesn't think he needs to say anything about it. Indeed, it's a profoundly satisfying watch, as he says, and he suspects he will never sell it. I feel the exact same about my Speedy. I just feel as much in love with it now as I was. I love the work on the case, such an interesting watch, and although it's 42, to me it just wears so easy, so comfortable. I don't know if you have the bracelet. If you don't, do get one, because I think it wears really like silk, and it's very solid. I like it. Quite different from the newer version. So the 1861, very mechanical feel, nothing that can really go wrong, not many bells and whistles. I really like it. So 2 great Omega there in the collection. Next we have the Rolex Explorer reference 114270. Andrew says it's a very versatile watch that suits his style, which is not flashy. I feel the same about mine. So I have also a 6-digit reference, but it's the 214270, the 39 millimeter version. I was so lucky to find one at an AD just about when everything had disappeared. It's the last one I ever saw, while before I had dismissed that model, and now it's just, you know, we build those collections with many watches and forget that we have sometimes a watch like this, which is perfect, and because we buy other things, we share the wrist time with other watches, and we almost don't enjoy them, those perfect watches. To me, the Explorer, if you just have that, you're a lucky man, and you know, move on with the rest of your life. Forget watches, you have a fantastic watch. Now the 114270 is a slight evolution from the previous 5-digit reference, the 14270, also 36 millimeters. A few differences over the year. So on the 5-digit reference, you can find some interesting pieces, like very early 90s, 1991, a couple of serial numbers there. had a black filled numerals. I'll put a picture on the screen. Quite interesting. You can find little differences. And when they went to the 6-digit reference, it's basically the same watch, but you have non-drilled lug holes. And the big difference is the movement, the 3130, if I'm not mistaken, which would have a Breguet over coil. It would have a bridge instead of a balanced cock for better stability, so better resistance to shock as well, better accuracy. What can I say? Great piece. So far, I think we're doing really good with this collection. Next, we have the Seiko Classic, the one everyone should have, an SKX 009. Andrew says it's a watch he purchased on the basis of all the positive feedback online, and he was very pleased that he listened to the others. It's his water watch. He's not been scuba diving though with it, but it's a great sports watch. I wear mine to play tennis. I wear it on the Seiko Jubilee type of bracelet, but he wears it regularly and gets it wet regularly. I really love the SKX. Again, if your budget is only $200-300, get the SKX. It is such a satisfying watch. I just love the look of that dial. It's just spot on. And mine actually, although I put it through hell, has been. I mean, I play tennis with the thing. It's an automatic watch. I really shouldn't do that, but it's still holding accuracy pretty good for that very simple movement. Very good looking watch, and I think everybody should have that. Much better than having some, you know, if you love your G-Shock, good for you, but I think it's nicer to have an SKX than a G-Shock if you just want to have one sports watch where you don't have to worry about the value of it too much. Although, you know, they stopped making it. There's millions of them about. Still, you can buy them new, but don't waste time. Do get your SKX 007, 009, maybe get the orange one as well, and the smaller size as well. I think they were great. Don't be afraid by I think the diameter is 42, but they were much smaller than that. No worry there. Next we have Panerai, a huge Panerai here, PAM 514. Now Andrew says, Panerai is a divisive brand. However, I admire the Radiomir design greatly. This is a big watch. However, because of its hand-on movement, it fits under a cuff. Despite my fondness for it, this is a watch that I often think about selling. I notice that I wear it relatively infrequently. Alright, first, the Radiomir, I agree. Usually those are the ones that stop me in my track. I find them really much more elegant than the ones with the big crown, the Luminor, which is the ones people gravitate more with their first Panerai. But I think the Radiomirs are really great. I love the ones with the big crowns. This one here looks huge. I guess it's a 47mm. Yeah, the thing is, in the collection here, if you had a 44mm, it would at least not look so crazy. And although you say you can wear different sizes of watches, it makes the Speedmaster look tiny. And yeah, if you're thinking about selling it, it's probably a sign that you know, it's a beautiful object, it's a beautiful watch, no doubt. And respect to all the Paneristi, I'd love to have a Panerai. Thinking green dial GMT, one of the limited edition series. Well, they're pretty much always limited. Something a bit special, or Radiomir. But yeah, I've never found the moment that was right to put money into that. There was always something else more urgent. So looking at the picture, and if you say so yourself, you think about selling it, I think probably it's a sign that you should try to sell it. Not easy, and there's so many fakes that people are very careful buying that. But if you can get some good money back from it, maybe. I think it looks a bit weird in the collection. I agree with you. Or if you can trade it with a Paneristi for a smaller size, maybe an interesting color, for example, or a GMT version, or something very simple, a very super simple, even yeah, even no date version, maybe in a smaller size. That could be something to do. Maybe easier to do that than try to sell it outright. which might be very difficult. Next, we have a watch that I often mention, my friend Simon, who I saw today, and he just came back from Quebec and gifted me some maple syrup, which I'll put on my kids' French toast. He has this Grand Seiko SBGM 221. It's the one I recommend for many people to add as a GMT complication. It's a beautiful dressy piece. It's the most recent purchase of Andrew to wear as a dressier piece. He loves the GMT complication and the elegant design. It wears well with the suit. I think it's one of the better case designs of Grand Seiko, because the more modern type of case designs, after a while you get a bit tired of them. They look very generic, and the SBGM 221 has something a bit more classical, and it adds that GMT complication in a smart way into the collection. Really, so far you're doing really great, Andrew. Next, again, great choice, the Tudor Black Bay Harrods edition. That's the 79230G reference. We don't even need to know the reference with the Tudors. They all have their little nickname. So Andrew says, I bought this because I love the green bezel, and frankly I think the Rolex Kermit is overpriced. Well, of course, if I'm although, you know, overpriced, yes and no, because you tend to wear Rolex for free, and then it's never overpriced. If you can buy your Kermit, even now paying a crazy price, even if you pay 15-16 grand, if you get them back after and more, you know, after 2-3 years, you've worn it for free. So yeah, I never really use the word overpriced too much with some Rolex, especially not the ones that are discontinued. The current production one, the new Kermit, the Summit, at 20 grand right out the gate, that is to me overpriced for a watch that we don't know, might be produced for 10 years, might be produced for 3 years, and if it's the less time they will produce it, the more valuable it is going to be. But now, yeah, it's all crazy. I'd love to have that watch, and I'd love to have a Kermit. Yeah, I'm tinkering with the idea. Anyway, the Harrods. Andrew says, if I'm honest, though, I'm not sure about the Harrods branding. Yeah, I don't know what you mean there. No need to go into the detail. We understand each other. Nonetheless, I suspect this is a keeper, not least since my eldest son has identified this watch as his favorite. One day he will have it. Look, I think the Black Bay is cool, and this is probably the coolest one to have. I also like the very simple ones, you know. Every time I see the steel with the black dial and the blue bezel, I think it looks lovely if you have the wrist for it. Very cool watch. But the Harrods is even more the one to get. Very special, very cool shade of green, actually, maybe even better. Tudor tends to have better colors than the Rolex colors, which are a bit more flash. I like it very much. Yeah, most definitely keep it. It's a great diver. You know, when you want a nice diver to go to the water, there you go. Great stuff. Nice step up from the SKX, and it fills that quality diver slot in the collection. Obviously you have the Panerai, but I never understand with the Panerai, especially the Radiomir. Are there a diver anymore? And most Panerais don't have a bezel anyway, so that's not really a diver. I always thought they were a diver watch at the origin. Anyway, to the Black Bay Harrods, I like it. Alright, Andrew says, what's next? I'm fairly satisfied at the moment. Perhaps I should consolidate into 1 or 2 higher-end watches. However, I enjoy the variety and the daily ritual of picking a watch. I am tempted by the GLC Master Control date with the sector dial, but I don't really need another dress watch. I would welcome any suggestions. Perhaps one day I'll be lucky enough to own a Patek or a longer, but there is no rush and plenty of other things to do with the money at the moment. Okay, so yeah, I think you have a very well balanced collection. It does, you know, I don't really like to use anymore the term tick all the boxes, but it's true. You have a good diversity. You have iconic watches. You made a good choice with your Grand Seiko. You wear your vintage piece, which suits your lifestyle. And as an alternative, you have the Explorer, which is great and a bit sportier, so when it rains you can wear that one. You have the GMT complication, you have a cool diver with the Harrods, something a bit different. I think the Panerai will agree that I would trade it for a smaller version or for something else. It's a bit of it sticks out a bit too much in the collection, and then you have your SKX009 when you want to keep your nice watches away. Now, you know, the idea of consolidating, we've discussed it on the channel. There's good and bad about it. If too many, you don't have too many watches, I think, and the ones that you have are keepers. I mean, what are you gonna consolidate really here? So you seem to like the watches that you have. So for example, you talk about the GLC Master Control date. It's going to be a bit redundant with the cool Grand Seiko and even almost with your vintage Omega. So then you're going to have a bit too many choice, I think, in the collection, a bit too many decisions to make every morning. So you would almost have to remove the Grand Seiko and the vintage to add the GLC Master Control. It's a bit bland, I find. It's a bit, there's not enough character to the date version. I would, if you could find, maybe if you could trade out that PAM to get the sector dial of the with the world time complication. I think that one is a bit more iconic of GLC, and it's so nicely presented. And actually, one of my colleagues just got one. It looks amazing. I wonder if he didn't get it actually from Europe, maybe from Germany. Really beautiful watch. They're not as elegant as you're gonna think. They're a bit sportier because they're not ultra thin like the Pateks would be, since you mentioned Patek, and longer. Very beautiful watch. The world time. It's a bit of a better version of the GMT, so it would step on the boundaries of your Grand Seiko. So if you love the Grand Seiko, why make your life more complicated than it needs to be? However, if I was to do consolidating, I would move then, you know, if you really could find the Master Control with that time zone function and the sector dial, I would only go for the sector dial, not for the regular dial. Although the regular dial, it's cool because it has got the power reserve and the date, which I think are great. I wish they would do a sector dial version with all that information. If they could put that all together, that would be great, and I'm sure they will do it. The thing with GLC, they always come up with something else. The good thing with the sector dial is that they did it for 1 year, and I think it stood the test of time, unlike some of their other designs that keep on getting redesigned. So always a bit risky. I think if you're already thinking long-term, Patek longer, maybe not. Don't stop by the GLC's watch. Maybe I would just enjoy what I have, because what you have has been well chosen so far. Because of your job, because of your style, of what you like, of everything you've told me, there's one watch I want you to consider, and it is going to be the one that's going to be bringing it all together, and the final piece to add to your collection, something to be really proud of, to crown the collection. It would be Lange und Söhne Saxonia. Either the date or the one with the moon phase. I think the format, whether you go for black dial or a white dial, I think for you black dial with white gold would be great, but the white dials, rose gold, are nice too. Worth, it would bring something a bit different in the collection. A lot of people, you know, when they think longer, they think of the longer one first, which are a lot more costly, a lot more busy, very interesting watches, but I'm not that much of a fan of the dial configuration. Personally, I prefer a bigger hands on my dial. It's getting the longer one, you know, you have to squint a bit. We're not getting any younger, and also it is very expensive. And on the case back, they all look the same, you know, with the 3/4 plates. You don't get much more to see. I find the Saxonia would suit your style a lot better. Whether you get the moon or not, the moon is a bit of a tricky thing, but I think the moons that they have are going to be accurate for 122 years, so that's one less worry. They have the push button on the side to adjust the date, so that's very convenient. You know, very, very cool watches. To me, that's the one that I see for you. The other one that people talk about a lot, I talked about a lot, is the up-down, the 1815 up-down, which was a great deal a couple of years ago. They're getting more expensive now. It's got the power reserve, I think the zero reset there when you pull the crown. Lovely, lovely watch as well. But somehow, when I read your mail, to me, that's the Saxonia that stands out as the one that would perfectly complement everything else, and something you would be really proud to wear when you go to work in court. So there you go. I think great collection as it is. As you say, enjoy it. If you get a deal around your neck of the woods, I think there's a couple of really good dealers there in Edinburgh. Maybe if you find that JLC Master Control, whether it's the chronograph or the date, or my favorite, the time zone version, see if you can trade out of your PAM, and if you get the time zone, trade out maybe of the Grand Seiko as well, to avoid having too much of the same in the collection. But I do like the Grand Seiko, so as I said, I would just enjoy what I have. I would add a Saxonia at one point. When you turn maybe 45, that would be a great milestone watch. And that's all I had to say for today. It's your turn in the comments. Let me know what you think of this cool collection. What would you add? Do you like the Saxonia? Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing your collection with us, and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Bye bye.